Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Travis and today we are back working on the 650 horsepower Cummins swapped big rig REO Speedwagon. And up until this point, I have built the 12 valve Cummins engine to make 650 horsepower. I have a whole video out on that where I did injectors, delivery valves, turbo, head studs, all sorts of other things. I did an entire separate video building the transmission from scratch, 650 DIY horsepower kit from Power Driven Diesel. If you ever need parts for your 12 valve, I would definitely recommend hitting them up. And in the last installment of this video, I got the REO big rig from Wilcox, took the body off the old frame, put it on this second gen Cummins frame, but there's still a ton of things to do on this before it's ready for duct tape drags in October. And it's already July 31st. It's basically August. So we have all of August, all of September, and half of October to finish this thing out. So I got to start hitting this thing hard because there's a lot of custom work. I'm not accustomed to custom work. If you guys watch the channel, we like factory original. We like to preserve. That's what we do here. A lot of preservation, getting things back on the road. But this is a totally different beast, totally different animal. And right now my concern is trying to get it on 4 wheels. Front tires are on, got to get the differential on. And I picked this differential up some months ago now because it's kind of exactly what I wanted. This is a 354 limited slip, so posi track, Dodge rear end, and it has disc brakes on it. So it has the gear sets I want, will have disc brakes all around, it has the same Dodge bolt pattern as my front tires, and it's got good gears. And you may be saying, man, 354s, that's a little tall gear sets to run for racing. Wouldn't you want 411s or maybe 373s? But 354s, the reason for that is most people build gas engines. Gas engines have a lot more RPMs up at the top to utilize 411s. This Cummins maximum is going to turn at 4,000 RPM. Probably with a load and everything, it's going to top out at 3,800 RPMs. So I can't utilize what 411s can give you running 6,000, 7,000 RPMs. I'm making up my RPMs in torque because it's a 12 valve. So because I can't make up the difference in RPMs, I have to make it up in gearing. That's the reason for the 354s. Now it may be ultimately better to go with 373s. I just felt 354s would work good for what we're doing. They might not be good, I don't know. So something I didn't notice on this rear end when I bought it is somebody changed the perches. You can see where it's rusted right here. There's some grind marks, and these are not factory welds. They moved the spring perches in a few inches, so they no longer fit the width of the original leaf springs. So what I'm going to have to do is cut those off and figure all the geometry out and widen them up a little bit so they'll fit the spring perches and weld them back on. Got the perches off, got the surface of the rear end ground down, put these tires on it, and we'll keep trying to center it up. There we go. Okay, so here's my thoughts on the rear end right now. I messed with this literally all day yesterday, and it's going to take some work to get this rear end correct because you got to space it this way and you got to do the angle of the yoke right. So I can't do a whole lot here until I have a bed. The bed is going to determine all of this, because if you look at the cab and then look at how long this frame is. I mean, there's just way too much length back here. I was thinking about doing some kind of wrecker bed setup, but wrecker beds are really, really heavy, and we're trying to go a little bit fast here. We're trying to get some speed under us, and a wrecker bed is just way heavy. I mean, they're like 2,000 pounds. I mean, we don't need all that weight. I'm trying to do everything I can to help myself out here. And I measured this. This is an 8-foot bed of the era, and if you put it right here, the tire comes to about here. All right, so it's just way too long. No bed of that era is gonna fit this correctly. We're gonna have to shorten the frame. I'm thinking probably 30 inches for whatever bed that we put on this thing. I can't figure out my drive shaft situation, my rear end situation. All this is gonna have to be moved forward. The gas tank is gonna have to be changed. None of this can be calculated until we have a bed, which I don't have yet. So let's work on something else that we can, get done at this point. And I think I want to work on the gauges. Yeah, none of these original gauges are going to work. Obviously, I'm not using the factory gauge cluster out of the original Dodge, because for that, the gauge cluster is going to look hideous in there. And for two, we're not using the computer, so we have to come up with our own gauge setup. And for that, I went with Glow Shift. This is not sponsored in any way. They were the cheapest. So we have oil pressure, water temp, exhaust temp, fuel pressure, boost, and a speedometer. And then we have this GPS setup, because we can't use the hookup on the back of the trans, because again, no computer. So this GPS is totally self-contained. In order to get these gauges in, we're going to be all up in this gauge cluster's business, and this steering wheel is right in the way. So let's just take this steering column out, if it'll pull out, just for now. We got to get all these wires out. Every bit of the old wiring is unusable, so yeah, come on. We'll make a whole new wiring harness for the lights and everything. Oh, that goes up to the cab lights. We will save some of these wires, because gotta have cab lights. I mean, the truck came with them. I'm leaving those up there, absolutely. Those babies are gonna work, you know that. Now that we have the gauge cluster empty, I'm hoping that these circular gauges fit. We'll see. This looks too big for that Speedo hole. Okay. Nope, doesn't fit. What about the small gauges? Made in Taiwan. Ooh. Fits. That's insane. 1957 REO Big Rig gauge cluster hole is the same as a glow shift gauge from, what was that, 65 years later, 60 some years later, same size hole. Isn't that neat? I like that. We'll waller out the Speedo hole some way or another, some way that's probably not approved by anybody, but so because this speedometer doesn't fit, we're gonna have to make it fit. My idea for that is to take this, which is what the gauge came in. What I'm thinking about doing is putting that template over this. You can see the hole is a little offset to this side than this side. If you look real close at this cluster, for some reason this hole is shifted towards this gauge a little bit. So when we cut this hole out, it'll actually be a little more even than it's actually a little to the left. It's weird. So I gotta say, I'm super happy with the way this looks. Looks very professional, very even. I'm so glad these fit. Saved me a lot of work customizing. Had to cut this out a little bit. And for our fuel pressure, we don't have enough holes, so we're gonna have to mount that bad boy like right here for our fuel pressure. Normally I don't feel like fuel pressure is very important. It's like, well, if the engine's running, you know, you're getting fuel pressure. But when you're doing like high horsepower stuff like this, you want to monitor fuel pressure because you want to see if it's going low. The problem you ultimately run into is, like, if you're not making the horsepower number you think you're making, it may be because you're not getting enough fuel. In my case, it's a hot rod modified lift pump. Some people use like AirDog electric fuel pumps. I'm going with a hot rod modified lift pump because it bolts up to the block. It's simple. It just hooks up like factory. It's very, very easy. And they say it supports 650. If you're giving it everything that she's got and the fuel pressure starts to go down close to zero, that means the engine is using all the fuel you're giving it and it's asking for more and it's not getting it. So I want to monitor this so that if for some reason I'm not getting the power I want to know that, hey, you know, it's the fuel system. I need to upgrade the fuel system. You might be thinking, Travis, you have all the gauges except one very important gauge. You don't have a tach. Where's your tach, dude? Well, that is another issue I had to solve, and I'm pretty sure we are going to solve it with this tiny tach, diesel tach, and hour meter. Why is it not a glow shift, and why doesn't it look like the rest of them? Glow shift does sell a tachometer, but it's an electronic one, and this engine's all mechanical. The only way I could use a tachometer is if I use the original computer and all that, and I don't have that. There's a few different solutions to the tachometer issue when you're not using a computer, and glow shift's tach does not solve my problem. They have different brands like ISPro and Autometer. I think ISPro has one that runs off of the crank. You glue magnets on the crank, and it's a hassle. And then I think Autometer has one that runs off the alternator, but I just didn't like any of those ideas. So this tiny tach is crazy. I guess how this thing works is you clamp this over one of the injection lines, and through the pulses of the injection line, that's how it monitors your RPM. I felt like this was the simplest, easiest solution. This thing was not super expensive, and you can run it on any kind of mechanical engine, a tractor, a diesel, anything that has an injection pump and injection lines, you can run this tack on. So look at that. I'll put a hold down that goes from the back to the front so that it can't move around, because I know for duct tape drags you can't, the battery has to be held down. It can't just be free floating. But we have a little cameo appearance from a certain someone. Look, what you doing? What are you doing?
Not napping.
Yeah, she's not napping. She's not a fan of napping. What do you think?
Wow.
You think she can go down the track with me in it?
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year.
Looks
Just
cool.
kidding. I wouldn't put you in danger.
What do you think of that, baby? Look how dirty your finger is.
My hands look like this, so hers can look like that.
Yeah.
See you, little girl. Bye. So we're going to continue on with the wiring. I am going to try to reuse this headlight switch because they're usually pretty tough. So we're going to see if it works. Pull out once. There we go. Gauges. This band goes through the rheostat that goes to your light, so you can change the brightness and the dimness. But yeah, they just never work. So we're just probably going to hook the gauges up to power. Then this should be headlights. Yep. So off. Gauges, probably parking lights. Headlights. Yeah. With these glow shift gauges, if you look at all the instructions, every single one of them sort of have the same wiring. Yellow is 12 volt constant even with the key off. Red is 12 volt when the key is on. Orange is 12 volt headlight switch for the lights inside the gauge. Black is ground. So they're all of them are like that. So I'm going to take the same color from all the gauges, twist all the oranges, all the yellows, all the blacks together, and then put them in their respective spots. Okay, I know this looks like a mess, but I think I have the lights for the gauges wired up. And then all the yellow wires are always getting power even with the key off. All the orange wires only get power when you flip the dash lights on, and all the red ones are key on power. and then this is going down to the solenoid on the starter. So if I plug the battery in, we should be able to get lights on the gauges. We'll see if those work. See if anything happens. Okay. Got some action. So the water temp is reading all the way full because we don't have the gauges themselves hooked up, just the lights. We still have to actually hook everything up to the truck. So because the circuit's open and there's no resistance on the system, that's probably why it's reading full. Oil pressure is reading all the way at 0. Our miles per hour says we're going trip odometer, trip B, trip A, trip B. Boost is reading 0 because it only goes up when it gets boost pressure. It's not electronically controlled. Our tach is reading 0, and our fuel pressure is reading maximum shove. Again, when we hook all of our gauges up, we're probably going to get different readings. So I wonder what happens. Yeah, I can change the light color. Yeah, 7 color. Yeah, I think I want green. Green will, yeah. I think green's going to look the best in this truck. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We can play with it as we go, but I think green's going to look the best. We'll see. But cool, I think we did it right. Wow. So right here behind the power steering pump is the oil sender. And we're going to take this one off so we can put the new sender on that they sent us. This is the harness that comes with it, and then it plugs right in. Luckily, the pipe thread on the block is the same as the pipe thread for the sending unit they give you. It's 1/8 inch. So it's plugged in. Now for the water temp, it's not going to be as easy. This is the sender wire for the water temp. Here is the sender. This white wire hooks to the green one, and then this black one hooks to a ground. But you can see this is 1/8 inch pipe thread, and that's humongous. We're going to have to take that out and get some kind of adapter to go from that thread to this thread so we can plug in our sender. Got it loose with the crescent wrench. Wasn't as bad as I thought. Yeah. This is our original one. It's 3/4 pipe thread, so I went to Ace Hardware, got a 3/4 pipe thread bushing, so it'll screw into the block. And then it had an 1/8 inch pipe thread hole, so I can screw the new sender into it. So this will work out pretty well. Tighten that up with a wrench and tighten this up with a 9/16 and should seal if it's pipe thread. If not, we'll have to seal it with some thread tape, but it should be all right. The water temp sender is tightened up. I got this hooked to the gauge, and I have this hooked to ground inside the cab. So this should work when we decide to put water in it, crank the truck up. The next gauge I want to hook up is the EGT, the pyrometer, the exhaust gas temp gauge. One of the most important gauges you can have to know if you're about to blow your engine up and melt a piston. This is the probe that goes down inside the manifold, and this manifold nicely has a pre-drilled tap slot. So I already have this plug loose. Take the plug out, it's already tapped. I bought this 3-piece manifold just as an insurance policy. It has nothing to do with performance. From everything I've heard about the stock exhaust manifolds, and the guys at Power Driven Diesel confirm this, is through all the heat cycles, it expands and contracts. But what happens is, especially since we're doing what we're doing, we're going to put a lot more heat, a lot more power to this, is that the manifold will shrink enough to break the ears off of the head. I don't want that to happen. I don't even want to think about it. So just as an insurance policy, I got this 3-piece manifold where it has these expansion joints right here to stop the head from breaking, because that's not a replaceable, fixable item. If you have a stock manifold, you can drill it and tap it and put one in it. People do it all the time. They suggest doing it before the turbo, not after. This gives you a more accurate reading. So here's part of the loom, and then the probe. I have this loose, right, so that I can move that probe up and down. I'm guessing that I'm hitting the bottom of the manifold, so I'm going to pull it up just a little bit like that, so it's not actually on the metal. Then I'll tighten it up. Should be good. This tiny end, I guess, plugs into the back of the gauge. Just shove that in there. Nice. Next, we're going to do the fuel pressure gauge, and for that, we have this snubber valve and the fuel pressure sensor. I have it screwed into the top of this snubber valve. So the whole idea is this right here is going to replace this banjo bolt and go right here. And this snubber valve, this is protecting the gauge from the lift pump, because the lift pump pumps every time the cam comes around. So it's pump, 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 pump. And you know, at 1800, 2000 RPMs, it's constantly pulsing on that line. And if you have this sensor hooked straight up to that banjo bolt, that pulsating is going to go through that sensor, and it does this with the gauge and it destroys the gauge. So the idea of this is to even out that pressure so that you get a constant reading, you know, and it just helps make the gauge live longer. Clean off all the dirt so we don't get anything in the pump. Taking out the 2 old crush washers that go on either side, because the new one comes with copper ones. Dropped it right in my oil pan. There it is. So since we introduced air into the system, I'm going to pump the bulb on the lift pump. There we go. Don't want to tighten it too tight, strip the threads out on the pump, just real snug. Now what we can do is use the loom they gave us in the kit. Plug one end into the sender. There you go. And shove the other end in the cab. So next we're going to hook up the tach. So this is the power lead and the ground for the tach. And I think I went over this earlier, but this goes over one of the injection lines and the pulse from the injection lines, and there's some kind of quartz in here, I don't know. and it reads RPM with no electronics. Let's see. They actually use this as a ground from the factory, so if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. Why is it so big? Look at that itty bitty wire and look how big that ground end is. What was the reason for that? It's kind of funny. Look, it fits this huge bolt. I mean, is it really that serious? Holy crap, you know? There you go, buddy. Use all the electricity you want. I'm just curious now if some of these go to 0 now that they're hooked up. Let's try it. Looks like they did. It's the next day now. We have 2 more gauges to hook up, and I waited for these because I think they're going to be the most difficult. We have the speedometer and the boost gauge. Because we don't have the original 2nd gen Cummins computer, we can't run the speedometer off of the factory stuff, so we have to basically make it from scratch. And because new speedometers aren't run off of a cable like old school stuff is, we got to come up with an entirely new method. And that's why they sent this in the kit. Or I had to buy this, I'm sorry. So the speedometer is one thing, and then I had to buy this extra kit right here. Boom. So this is a GPS sensor kit. So instead of relying on the truck itself to tell you how fast you're going and use the output shaft or something, this is a GPS sensor that we have to mount somewhere, and this is how we're going to get our speed. So there's that. And secondly, in order to hook up the boost gauge, I would love to just hook up, you know, boost reference from the manifold, run it to the gauge, call it good. But we can't do that because I've had this for months now, since actually last year that I ordered from Power Driven Diesel. I ordered this when I was doing the engine video. This is Power Driven's AFC Live. Okay? We're going to have to route the boost reference lines from the manifold to this, to the gauge, or something. From what I understand about the AFC Live, I've heard good things about it, and I guess Power Driven Diesel, they worked hard on developing this and perfecting it. So essentially, if you want to tune a newer diesel, what do? You just go buy a tuner and put it in the cab, and it's electronic, it's a little computer box, and if you want a tow tune, you hit a button. If you want a race tune, you hit a button in it. Changes the timing, changes the boost, changes the fuel delivery, you know, it just, all that stuff right then and there. Well, on a mechanical engine, you can't do that. There's no computer. How do you change the friggin' tune? Typically, what you'd have to do is go run the truck, then get back home and say, that wasn't right, I didn't like the boost level here. And then you'd have to go out in the engine bay, tweak things, change things, you know, move some things around, and then go back in the truck and test it again. And then you get a little closer to where you want it, and you have to open up the hood, you know, fiddle with it again. What the AFC attempts to do, to my understanding, is it's AFC Live, Air Fuel Control Live. So you can tune it. It tries to quasi-computerize the mechanical P-pump. So you can put this little box in here, and then you can change your tune from the knobs. Like you can change the fuel delivery and the boost and all that right there. So it's essentially like buying a computer tune. You know what I'm saying? Give me a minute to figure this out, and I'll get back with you. Thinking if I'm sitting like right here, where would I want to be looking at it? Like right here? Because these are the gauges I'm going to be watching the most. I put the oil and water temp over here because those are sort of going to hopefully be sort of constant. I don't need to watch those all the time as much as I'm going to be wanting to probably watch exhaust, boost, tach, fuel pressure, speed. So I don't want to put it over here. I'd want to put it right here, right? Just thinking out loud. So you power, fuel rate. I guess we'll sort of figure out the little intricacies of these knobs when we actually get things rocking and rolling. We'll see what it does. And then this switch flips the whole thing on or off. So like, if you want to use whatever tune you have it set to, you flip it on and it goes through the housing and uses your dealio. But if you want all the power without the tune, just however the engine's set, you flip that off and it negates this and just goes straight to the engine. Let's see here. In order to put this on, I have to change one of the boost reference fittings that's on the intake manifold of the head. I can't get it off without taking the injection lines off. So instead of the factory way of going straight from the head to the air fuel control housing, it goes from the head into the cab through the AFC and then out to the air fuel control housing. I noticed something in one of these compression fittings. This is for the boost gauge. This one, see all, it's a big hole, you know, right through the middle. There's almost no hole. There's only a itty bitty little pilot hole in there. Look at that. I can barely blow through it. I got this little mini drill bit kit from Harbor Freight a while back. It's pretty cool. It's got like tons of small drill bits, and this one seems to fit through the correct one that's got the hole pretty perfectly. So we'll just drill the new one, I guess. That's it. So I hate that I had to do it, but I had to take the injection lines off to get this boost reference port fitting off the head. So before I put it on, I want to show you just what's going on. In place of the factory fitting, we got Power Driven's AFC fitting here. So it goes in to the head. The plastic line goes from here. I routed it right here. It goes into the cab. It goes through the AFC box, comes back out, goes into this port, directly into the air fuel control housing. And then this one just goes to the boost gauge. That's it. This goes straight from here, straight to the boost gauge so that we can read it from the gauge. Now we have to put all this back together. And just so you know, these two lines that come off of the AFC Live box, you can't put them anywhere. One is marked with tape that you have to put it here. You can't just put this one here and this line here. Now that we have that all put together correctly, I'm going to put all the injection lines on, tighten them up, put the intake horn on, and we can move on to something else. I think we officially have all the gauges hooked up, including the AFC Live. We're going to clean this up later because I'm still not done with the wiring. We still have to do brake lights, headlights, turn signals, the cab lights. I ordered a universal turn signal switch that's going to go on the column, so we're going to have to wire all that up. So this we'll deal with later, but we have everything hooked up. And I even hooked up the speedometer. It always has to have reference to the sky, so it has to be outside. So now I have to think about what I want to tackle next. So let me think about that real quick. I guess we'll see what we can do about hooking up some steering. Steering column is bolted in. There's a bracket right here, and then there's a bracket down there. I don't have them tight yet so that I can move the steering column around. I'm trying to figure out right now how to hook it up to the steering system on the Dodge. This is the U-joint for the steering column, and then this was the original shaft. And then here's the shaft that goes to steering box. So I can't pull the steering column up anymore to get this to sort of be flush with the end of the U-joint, because the U-joint starts to hit the cab, and I don't want to just keep pulling the steering column up into the cab because the steering wheel's going to start looking stupid being out in the middle of the air. So to get this to hook up, what I'm wondering if I can do is unbolt this steering column shaft from the steering box and then shorten it, maybe right there, and re-weld it. Take a section of that off, re-weld it, and then get another piece from another Dodge that fits this pattern, put it in there and have it sticking up, and then cut this off and then weld this stick to this. My idea may be changing here. Just thinking. What is this on here? Okay. Yeah, that looks like some good steel. Okay, so instead of doing all this, that, and the other, what I was just talking about, hold on. We have a perfectly good usable U-joint here. I know it looks old and nasty, but and it is pretty stout. Why don't I cut this off right about here, flush, and then why don't I just cut this stick down a little bit? You know what I'm saying? I don't need two U-joints right here. It's not that hard of a bend. A U-joint here, and then the U-joint at the other end. And that's enough. I don't need any more than that. So why don't I just cut this, weld this to this, and we'd have it. Because there's plenty here to shorten. Let's see if that greaser takes. Oh. See it? Yeah, it took. I saw it push out the sides. How about that? Now that we have all the gauges hooked up, you know, I haven't even actually started this engine in many months, especially since we put the REO body on it and hooked all this stuff up. I haven't ran it in a long time, so I think first start is in order, don't you think? So we're going to crack these injector lines and bleed it again, because remember I had to take these injection lines off to put that AFC Live fitting in the head, so we introduced air into it, so we're going to have to crack these, bleed them out a little, and then hopefully it still runs, because it's been sitting, you know, not open, but kind of. Before I had the REO body on it, I just had a hood sitting over the engine. I closed everything up as best I could, so I want to hear this thing run again. We'll also get to check and see if some of our gauges work. I may have to get Emily out here to crank it, because Dad's not here right now. I need you to crank this thing while I'm out here.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you here. Come over here. See this? I need you to turn it on. We're just going to leave it on. But then when I ask you to, I need you to crank it. You got to hold this. You can't just turn it. You have to hold it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
And then I'll tell you when to stop. So like I'll do this when I want you to do it, and then I'll do that when I want you to
So
stop.
just hang on to it.
Yeah, like keep cranking it, and then I'll
Oh,
tell
like
you.
repeatedly, or
No,
like...
no. Keep it on. Like when I tell you to, hold it in the crank position.
Yeah.
Keep it on, and then I'll tell you when to cut it.
Okay. Should it be off?
What?
Should it be off right now, or the lights on?
That's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead. Not getting anything yet. Go ahead. Try and hold the throttle open a little bit, see if that helps us out. Go ahead. Wow, it's still dry. Go ahead. We're getting it out of 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. No, 3.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. Wait a minute. All right, there's some coming out of 3. Okay. Getting diesel everywhere. We should be able to close these up now. This time, when you're cranking it, it should start, and if it starts to get light and it starts, let off
Just like go.
let off the ignition. Don't shut it off. Well,
Yeah.
wouldn't even really matter because
Just let go.
But okay, go ahead and crank it again. Okay, go ahead and try it again.
So let go when I start to hear something different,
Like
right?
when it starts, you know what I mean? When it starts to run, don't keep cranking it. There it is, baby. Woo! Isn't that the coolest thing you ever heard? Woo! That's a Cummins. That's a Cummins, girl. All right, let's see. Got about 50 pounds of fuel pressure. That's really good. 700 RPM, that's working. ECG, no boost. Got about almost 70 pounds good. All right, everything's working as it should.
Yeah,
Boom.
REO Speedwagon.
She's gonna rip. Super excited. This is so cool. Got all the gauges wired for lights. Got all the gauges hooked up to their respective sensors on the engine so we can monitor what's going on, make sure we're not tearing nothing up. Made a battery box out of the original battery box that came with the Rio, so that's pretty cool. Now we have a source of power and even got the steering hooked up. I'm super happy with that solution. I think it's going to be safe. I think it's stout. I think it's simple. I'm super happy with how that came out. Use the original U-joint from the original steering column. And because we use the steering shaft that goes from the steering column to the box, we're actually able to retain that original collapsing function. It went in and out, and it's for like a wreck or whatever, but actually able to retain that. And I'm glad we were able to use the original steering column because I didn't want to put something goofy in there. Like I didn't want to put the original, actually I don't have one anyway, the original Dodge Cummins steering column that would have came in the truck I took apart. The steering column was already gone. I don't want to put like some chrome I did it column or some fancy looking deal in there. It just isn't going to look right. You know, I want this thing to look like it doesn't go fast. It's a sleeper build. That's the whole idea. And using that original column looks cool. I mean, it's the original big rig steering wheel. It's pretty sweet. On top of that, it's not hokey. I don't think that the way I hooked it up was hokey in any way. I think it's going to work right and it's not going to give me any problems. I still have to rig up some kind of a gas pedal. I have to rig up some kind of a brake pedal. I do have the brake and gas pedal set up that's in the cab of the truck that I took apart. So I'm going to see if I can take that out and maybe use that gas pedal, brake pedal situation. I have the booster and the master cylinder from the second gen Cummins that I'm going to see if I can rig up and use. I just got to figure out a bed situation. I was able to get all of this done while still driving a 900-mile round trip to pick up a truck that's going to be in a future video. A subscriber reached out to me and had a truck that his grandfather had bought new, and it's all original, untouched, and original condition. I can't show you guys too much on it yet because it's really, really cool, and I want you guys to see it when the video comes out. Thank you guys for all of your support on the channel. Thank you for all your likes, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, everything. It means a lot. Channel is growing. We're at 190-some thousand subscribers. We are this close to 200,000. So make sure you share the channel, tell people about it. Hopefully the YouTube algorithm works its magic too. It'd be really cool to get to 200,000, maybe before Duct Tape Drags. It's the beginning of August right now. Duct Tape Drags is October 17th and 18th. So maybe we can hit that 200 mark before then. Maybe we can hit 250 before the end of the year. Anything is possible. It is really, truly thanks to viewers like you that support these type of builds and all the other Will It Runs and the trucks we buy and the awesome content that we try to give to you. And if you want to support the channel in a little more direct way, you can order yourself up one of our really cool shirts, which a lot of you have been doing. This is a batch of orders that are going out right now, putting them in the Pontiac, take them to the post office. So for those who have decided to pick something up from Theetravisb.com, I really, really appreciate you. It means so much. But right now, I got to get these bad boys to the post office.